If you're a builder or a contractor, you're certainly trying to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on with the real estate market. Are there properties being sold or bought, or what's going on with the values? And it's a tricky thing because you look, 15 years ago or so, there was the crash of real estate in 2008. And a lot of people were stung by that. If you're a builder or developer, you may have run into some financial difficulties when that happened. So you don't want to have that happen to you again. So a lot of people are gun shy about building new spec homes or new construction. Understandably so. So now, here we are in 2023, and the question is, what's going to happen with house prices? If you're a builder, you might be wondering, am I still in a business that has demand? Well, a lot of people have predictions. Everybody has different predictions. It's going to go up, going to go down, going to stay the same. Here's one example from a finance company, financial institution that says housing prices will bottom in 23, early 23. Well, we're in early 23. Does that mean that house prices are at their lowest? They're going to start going up? What's the deal? And this also only addresses house prices. It doesn't address how many houses are getting sold. And that's the big elephant in the room, is who's going to be buying houses at the price, high or low, right? Well, there's a couple things that are kind of hidden in plain sight. One is there still a shortage of homes, right? According to many experts, there's 5 million homes shortage from what people need to buy, meaning that there's 5 million more people that need to buy houses than there are houses available. That didn't change the fact of prices going up or down. Doesn't change the number of houses. If house prices go up to $1 million or they go down to $100,000, it doesn't change how many houses there are. It might change how many can get built, but it doesn't change the number of houses. Also, what is the volume of sales? If more people buy houses or less people buy houses, it doesn't change the number of houses out there, right? So some people that buy houses are coming from a rental into a home. Well, that satisfies part of that market. Some people that buy a house are selling a house, and so it's like musical chairs. It doesn't change the number of demand houses versus people who need to buy them. So as a builder, what do? Well, you still need to keep your company running. You need to pay for your overhead, your bond, your insurance, your office if you have one, equipment, amortization, repairs, that kind of thing, employees. So certainly there's enough work out there for remodels and additions and those kind of things, tenant improvements on commercial. But what do you do about new construction? Right? New construction, traditionally, as a builder or contractor, was a big source of volume for your jobs. When is that going to come back? Well, the prices may bottom out in 23. You may not think that's going to be the case, and maybe they won't. But the question is, what about volume? I believe there's going to be a stalemate. I think there's going to be buyers and sellers. Neither one of them wants to do anything, right? At an average price of $416,000, that's the median price of a house right now, not the average, the median. And at the current rates, by the time you factor in interest, taxes, insurance, all the other things that go into a house price and payment, you're looking at $4,000 to $5,000 a month for a payment, mortgage payment all in. That is significantly different than the median price in 2017, let's say 5 years ago, would have put you at about $2,000 at a 3% mortgage, a $250 house, right? That's a big difference. That's more than double. Even if housing prices come down 10% or even 20%, you're still going to be at a payment of $3,500, $3,800 for an average buyer. That's a big difference. So buyers may not want to buy at that price point. But on the other hand, sellers might not want to sell either. If you see that your house with Zillow and your neighbors and everything else selling at $450, $500, whatever your market is, and then all of a sudden, in order to sell it, you have to sell it for $320 or $350, why do you need to sell? Just stay put. You already have a house. It's a roof over your head. You have a cheap payment. If you have an extra house, maybe you could Airbnb it or rent it out long term. You're better off doing that than selling it for cheap, right? There are very few people who are in a distressed position like there was in 2008. A lot of people in 2008 had these variable rate mortgages where the index went up and their teaser rate went away, and they had to sell, or they had too many houses. The underwriting for loans for the last 10 years really didn't put people in that position. So there's not a lot of distressed sellers. Certainly there will be some, right? A lot of this is going to have to do with what's going on with employment. Yeah, there's some waves of layoffs happening, especially in the tech industry, but it's not a huge increase in unemployment. There's some, but it's not a huge wave. That could change everything. If unemployment goes through the roof, now all bets are off. Inflation is a factor. When you have to pay $10 for a dozen eggs, or $5 for a head of lettuce, or $5 for gas, that may change things. But the home is usually your first priority for payment. The other thing is alternatives. Look, if you have a mortgage payment on your house of $2,500, even $3,000, that you already are in that house, if you sell the house, where are you going to rent for that? Rental prices for a typical average property right now is about the same, $2,500, $3,000. You're not going to save a lot of money by going to a rental unless you rent a real cheap sled house or apartment. So in order to have a housing price crash, certainly the demand side pushes that down, but you also have to have a willing seller. Unless sellers are willing to sell at a lower price, the house price average can't crash. It's impossible. Same thing with stocks. In order for stocks to go down, you have to have a willing seller to sell it at that lower price. If they're not willing to sell, the price exchange doesn't happen. Same thing with houses. If there's a house that somebody bought for $250 and it went up at one point to $450 or $480 and they didn't sell, and now all of a sudden the buyers don't want to pay more than $300 or $320, unless that seller's willing to sell it for that much, they just stay in it. Got a roof over your head, you got a cheap mortgage, just stay here. Don't sell it. If you need to move because of a job, rent it out. You could rent it out for $3,000, right? $3,500. You make a profit. Buy your other house. So the equilibrium in buyers and sellers might keep the housing prices from crashing too much. There's going to be some exceptions in certain markets, but it's not going to be like 2008. Look, in 2008, the housing prices went down from 2008, 9, 10. By 2011 or 12, they were right back where they were 4 years later. And that was with a very significant pressure on sellers because they were overburdened with debt. They were no money down. They were no income, no credit verification. The underwriting for the last 10 years was very stout. They kept basically unqualified people from buying houses. The people who bought houses had good credit, down payments, right, good jobs. So there's not going to be that same pressure on the market. And everybody's saying crash because it happened before. Just because it happened before doesn't mean it's happening now. So as a builder, what do? Probably focus on remodels, additions, tenant improvements on commercial, because the new home production pipeline may not be there for a while. Whether housing prices go up or they crash, it's not going to change the number of transactions, which is going to be small to begin with, and new homes may take a couple years to get back in the pipeline.